How are you guys doing? Today is Sunday, January 9th, 2022. I'm James Sims, and for this episode of The Elite, I'm going to review the Elite matchups and performances that took place yesterday on Saturday, January 8th, 2022. Taking a quick step back and looking at where we are in the calendar year, starting, of course, with football. The college football season is almost over as the college football national championship game will take place tomorrow, and that will end the 2021 season. In the NFL, there's only one regular season left, as some teams were able to finish their regular seasons yesterday, as today will be the last day of the now 18-week 2021 and 22 NFL season right before we get into the playoff push. And then, of course, college and NBA basketball are approaching their midway points as we are getting ready to go through this 2022 back half of each schedule. And then, of course, looking out to what's going on internationally, soccer teams are also in the second half of their year as their season ends in the summer. First, taking a look at what is going on with college basketball, looking at yesterday's big performances, starting with the number one ranked team in the nation, the defending champs, the Baylor Bears, face off against the unranked TCU Horned Frogs, and Baylor would end up beating TCU 76-64 as they still have yet to lose a game this season. Baylor won this matchup by 12 after they outscored TCU by 18 in the second half to overcome their 6-point deficit. On the winning end of this matchup, Baylor was led in scoring by their starting guard, Adam Flagler. He finished with 22 points and 3 steals in 33 minutes. He shot 8 for 13 from the field and 6 for 10 from 3. Their starting guard, James Akinjo, finished with 20 points, 8 assists, and 3 steals in 37 minutes. He shot 9 for 15 from the field, and he shot 2 for 4 from 3. With this win, the first-ranked Baylor Bears are now 15-0. They are now 3-0 in the Big 12. With this loss, unranked TCU is 10-2 as they are now 0-1 in the Big 12. That was their first Big 12 matchup. Looking at the number 2 ranked team in the nation, my Duke Blue Devils hosted the unranked Miami Hurricanes in Cameron Indoor. Miami would end up beating Duke 76-74 to give Duke their very first home loss of the season. The score was tied in the first half. Miami would outscore Duke by 2 in the second half. And on the losing end of this matchup, the second-ranked Duke Blue Devils were led in scoring by their freshman starting forward, Paolo Banchero. Banchero finished with 20 points, 7 rebounds, and 2 blocks in 35 minutes. He shot 6 for 10 from the field, 2 for 4 from 3, and 6 for 7 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the unranked Miami Hurricanes were led in scoring by their starting guard, Charlie Moore, out of Chicago. He would go on to finish with 18 points and 7 steals in 34 minutes. He shot 7 for 13 from the field and 3 for 4 from the foul line. With this win, the unranked Miami Hurricanes are 13-3. They are now 5-0 in the ACC. With this loss, second-ranked Duke is now 12-2 on the year. They are now 2-1 in the ACC. Taking a look now what's going on with the third-ranked team in the nation, the Purdue Boilermakers would go on to face off against the unranked Penn State Nittany Lions. Purdue would end up beating Penn State 74-67. They were able to win this matchup by 7 after they outscored Penn State by 5 in the first half. On the winning end of this matchup, the Purdue Boilermakers were led in scoring by their forward off the bench, Travion Williams, out of Chicago. He finished with 21 points and 9 rebounds in 21 minutes. He shot 9 for 12 from the field and 3 for 4 from the foul line. With this win, the third-ranked Purdue Boilermakers are now 13-2 as they are now 2-2 in the Big Ten. With this loss, the unranked Penn State Nittany Lions are now 7-6. They are now 2-3 in the Big Ten. Looking at the fourth-ranked college basketball team in the nation, the reigning runners-up from last year, the fourth-ranked Gonzaga Bulldogs hosted the unranked Pepperdine Waves for these teams' first West Coast Conference matchup. Gonzaga would end up beating Pepperdine 117-83. They would go on to win this matchup by 34 after they outscored Pepperdine by 22 in the first half and by 12 in the second half. On the winning end, the Gonzaga Bulldogs were led in scoring by their forward off the bench, Anton Watson, out of Spokane, Washington. He would go on to finish with 19 points, 6 rebounds, and 2 steals in 25 minutes. He shot 7 for 12 from the field and a perfect 5 for 5 from the foul line. With this win, the fourth-ranked Gonzaga Bulldogs are now 12-2. They are 1-0 to start off their WCC schedule. With this loss, unranked Pepperdine is 6-10 as they are now 0-1 in the West Coast Conference. Looking at the 5th-ranked college basketball team in the nation, the UCLA Bruins would go on up to Berkeley to face off against the unranked Cal Bears. UCLA would end up beating Cal 60-52. They won this matchup by 8 after they outscored Cal by 6 in the first half. On the winning end, the Bruins were led in scoring by their starting guard, Tiger Campbell, out of Iowa. He finished with 17 points and 3 steals in 35 minutes. He shot 7 for 10 from the field, 2 for 3 from 3, and he shot 1 for 2 from the foul line. With this win, the 5th-ranked UCLA Bruins are now 10-1. They are 2-0 in the Pac-12 at the moment, and with this loss, the unranked Cal Golden Bears are now 9-7. They are 2-3 in the Pac-12. Looking at the 6th-ranked team in the nation, the Kansas Jayhawks would go to Texas Tech to face off against the 25th-ranked Red Raiders. The Raiders would end up upsetting the 6th-ranked Jayhawks. They won this matchup 75-67. They beat Kansas by 8 after outscoring Kansas by 8 in the first half. On the losing end, the 6th-ranked Kansas Jayhawks were led in scoring by their starting guard, Ochai Agbaji, out of Kansas City. He would go on to finish with 24 points in 35 minutes. He shot 7 for 12 from the field, 6 for 9 from 3, and he shot a perfect 4 for 4 from the foul line. Their starting forward, Jalen Wilson, out of Denton, Texas, would go on to finish with 20 points and 3 steals in 32 minutes. He shot 6 for 8 from the field, 3 for 5 from 3, and 5 for 6 from the foul line. On the winning end, the Red Raiders, the 25th-ranked team in the nation, were led in scoring by their starting forward, Bryson Williams. Bryson Williams would finish with 22 points and 8 rebounds in 31 minutes. He shot 9 for 13 from the field on the night. With this win, the 25th-ranked Texas Tech Red Raiders are 11-3 on the season. They are 1-1 in the Big 12. With this loss, 6th-ranked Kansas is 12-2, as they are now 1-1 in the Big 12 as well. Looking at the 9th-ranked basketball team in the nation, the Auburn Tigers hosted the unranked Florida Gators. Auburn would win this matchup 85-73. The Tigers won this game by 12 after outscoring Florida by 9 in the first half. On the winning end, the 9th-ranked Tigers were led in scoring by their starting guard, KD Johnson, out of Atlanta. He would go on to finish with 23 points and 3 steals, as he did all this in 28 minutes. He shot 7 for 13 from the field, 3 for 4 from 3, and 6 for 8 from the foul line. With this win, the 9th-ranked Auburn Tigers are now 14-1 on the season. They are now 3-0 in the SEC. They are one of 2 teams that are still undefeated, sitting alongside Texas A&M within the conference. With this loss, the unranked Florida Gators are now 9-5. They are now 0-2 in the SEC at the moment. Taking a look now at what is going on with the 11th-ranked team in the nation, the Iowa State Cyclones would go to Norman to face off against the unranked Oklahoma Sooners. Unranked Oklahoma would upset the 11th-ranked Cyclones 79-66. Oklahoma won this matchup by 13 after outscoring Iowa State by 17 in the second half to overcome their 4-point deficit. On the losing end of this matchup, the 11th-ranked Cyclones were led in scoring by their starting guard, Tyrese Hunter, out of Racine, Washington, and then their starting guard, Isaiah Brockington, out of Philly. Hunter would finish with 20 points and 4 steals in 36 minutes. He shot 9 for 15 from the field and 2 for 3 from 3. Brockington finished with 20 points in 37 minutes as he shot 9 for 15 from the field as well. He shot 2 for 4 from 3. On the winning end of this matchup, the unranked Sooners were led in scoring by their starting guard, Umoja Gibson, their senior out of Waco, Texas. He finished with 20 points in 29 minutes. He went on to shoot 4 for 6 from the field, 2 for 3 from 3, and a perfect 10 for 10 from the foul line. With this win, the unranked Oklahoma Sooners are now 12-3. They are now 2-1 in the Big 12. And with this loss, the 11th ranked Iowa State Cyclones are now 13-2. They are now 1-2 in the Big 12. Looking at the 12th ranked team in the nation, the Houston Cougars hosted the unranked Wichita State Shockers. Houston would end up beating Wichita State 76-66. They won this matchup by 10 after outscoring Wichita State by 5 in both halves. On the winning end of this matchup, the Houston Cougars were led in scoring by their starting center, Josh Carlton, out of Winterville, North Carolina. He finished with 22 points, 12 rebounds, and 4 blocks, as well as 5 turnovers in 33 minutes. He shot 8 for 12 from the field and 6 for 8 from the foul line. With this win, the 12th ranked Houston Cougars are now 14-2. They are now 3-0 in the American Conference. With this loss, the unranked Wichita State Shockers are now 9-5. They are 0-2 in the American Conference. Looking at the 14th ranked team in the nation, the Texas Longhorns went to face off against the unranked Oklahoma State Cowboys in Oklahoma. Oklahoma State would end up upsetting the ranked Longhorns 64-51. They outscored Texas by 13 in the game after outscoring Texas by 11 in the second half. On the losing end of this matchup, the 14th ranked Longhorns were led in scoring by their starting forward, Timmy Allen. He finished with 10 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 steals in 32 minutes as he shot 5 for 10 from the field. Their guard off the bench, Andrew Jones, finished with 10 points as well in 22 minutes. He shot 4 for 11 from the field. On the winning end of this matchup, the unranked Oklahoma State Cowboys were led in scoring by their guard off the bench, Kalen Boone, out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. He finished with 17 points and 6 rebounds in 27 minutes. He shot 6 for 8 from the field and 5 for 7 from 3. With this win, the unranked Oklahoma State Cowboys are now 8-5. They are now 1-1 in the Big 12. With this loss, the 14th ranked Texas Longhorns are now 12-3. They are now 2-1 in the Big 12. Taking a look now at the 15th ranked team in the nation, the Alabama Crimson Tide would face off against the unranked Mizzou Tigers. And the unranked Mizzou Tigers would pull off the 6-point home win. They won it 92-86 after outscoring Alabama by 9 in the second half to overcome their 3-point deficit. And on the losing end of this matchup, the 15th ranked Alabama Crimson Tide were led in scoring by their starting guard, also known as Jelly God, Javon Quinterly. He would finish with 19 points and 5 rebounds in 33 minutes. He shot 9 for 13 from the field. And then on the winning end of this matchup, the unranked Mizzou Tigers would be led in scoring by their starting forward, Kobe Brown. Their junior out of Huntsville, Alabama, would finish with 30 points and 13 rebounds in 31 minutes. He shot 9 for 13 from the field, 2 for 3 from 3, and 10 for 11 from the foul line. With this win, the unranked Mizzou Tigers are now 7-7 on the year. They are 1-1 in the SEC. With this loss, the 15th ranked Alabama Crimson Tide are now 11-4 on the season. They are 2-1 in the SEC. Looking at the 16th ranked team in the nation, the Providence Friars hosted the unranked St. John's Red Storm. Providence would beat St. John's 83-73. They won this matchup by 10 after outscoring St. John's by 13 in the second half. On the winning end of this matchup, the 16th ranked Friars were led in scoring by their starting center, Nate Watson, out of Portsmouth, Virginia. He will go on to finish with 22 points, 11 rebounds, and 2 blocks, all in 29 minutes. He shot 9 for 11 from the field and 4 for 5 from the foul line. With this win, the 16th ranked Providence Friars are now 14-2. They are now 4-1 in the Big East. With this loss, unranked St. John's is now 9-4. They are now 1-1 in the Big East. Looking at the 16th ranked basketball team in the nation, the Kentucky Wildcats hosted the unranked Georgia Bulldogs. Kentucky was able to beat Georgia 92-77. They won this matchup by 15 after outscoring the unranked Bulldogs by 12 in the second half. On the winning end of this matchup, the 16th ranked Kentucky Wildcats were led in scoring by their starting forward, Oscar Tshiebouye, out of the Congo. He would go on to finish with 29 points, 17 rebounds, and 2 blocks in 39 minutes. He shot 13 for 20 from the field and 3 for 4 from the foul line. With this win, these 16th ranked Kentucky Wildcats are now 12-3 as they are now 2-1 in the SEC. With this loss, the unranked Georgia Bulldogs are now 5-10 as they are now 0-2 in the SEC. Kentucky and Providence sharing that 16th ranked. Looking at the 18th ranked team in the nation, the Tennessee Volunteers will go to Baton Rouge to face off against the 21st ranked LSU Tigers. LSU would end up beating Tennessee in this top 25 matchup as LSU won this matchup by 12. They outscored Tennessee by 7 in the first half and by 5 in the second half. On the losing end of this matchup, the 18th ranked Vols were led in scoring by their starting guard, Kennedy Chandler, out of Memphis, Tennessee. He finished with 19 points and 4 steals as well as 6 turnovers in 37 minutes. He shot 6 for 12 from the field. On the winning end of this matchup, the 21st ranked LSU Tigers were led in scoring by their forward off the bench, Tori Eason. Tori Eason will go on to finish with 24 points, 12 rebounds, and 2 blocks, all in 32 minutes. He shot 9 for 16 from the field, and he shot 5 for 6 from the foul line. With this win, the 21st ranked LSU Tigers are now 14-1. They are now 2-1 in the SEC. With this loss, the 18th ranked Tennessee Volunteers are now 10-4 as they are now officially 1-2 in the SEC. Looking at the 19th ranked team in the nation, the Villanova Wildcats would face off against the unranked DePaul Blue Demons in Chicago. Villanova would end up beating DePaul 79-64. They won this matchup by 15 after they outscored DePaul by 20 in the second half. On the winning end of this matchup, the 19th ranked Wildcats were led in scoring by their starting guard, Colin Gillespie. He finished with 28 points in 38 minutes. He shot 9 for 17 from the field, 3 for 8 from 3, and a perfect 7 for 7 from the foul line. Their starting guard, Justin Moore, would finish with 21 points, as well as 7 rebounds in 32 minutes. He shot 5 for 10 from the field, 3 for 5 from 3, and 8 for 9 from the foul line. With this win, the 19th ranked Villanova Wildcats are now 11-4. They are now 4-1 in the Big East. And now, of course, with this loss, the unranked DePaul is now 9-5. They are now 0-4 in the Big East. Looking at the 20th ranked team in the nation, the Colorado State Rams would face off against the unranked San Diego State Aztecs in San Diego. The Aztecs would mollywop the ranked Rams. They won this matchup 79-49. They won this matchup by 30 after outscoring Colorado State by 26 in the second half, more than doubling their scoring output. On the losing end of this matchup, the 20th ranked Rams were led in scoring by their starting guard, Isaiah Stevens out of Texas. He finished with 19 points in 35 minutes. He shot 5 for 11 from the field, 2 for 5 from 3, and a perfect 7 for 7 from the line. On the winning end of this matchup, the unranked San Diego State Aztecs were led in scoring by their starting guard, Matt Bradley, out of San Bernardino, California. He finished with 26 points, 7 rebounds, and 2 steals in 32 minutes. He shot 10 for 17 from the field, 4 for 6 from 3, and a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. With this win, the unranked San Diego State Aztecs are now 10-3, as they are now 2-0 in the Mountain West. With this loss, the 20th ranked Colorado State Rams have picked up their first loss of the season. They are now 11-1. They are now 1-1 in their conference. Last but not least, looking at the top 25 ranked teams, looking at the 24th ranked team in the nation, the Seton Hall Pirates would host the unranked UConn Huskies. Seton Hall would end up beating UConn 90-87. They won this matchup by outscoring UConn 13-10 in overtime. On the winning end of this matchup, the 24th ranked Seton Hall Pirates would be led in scoring by their guard off the bench, Kadary Richmond out of Brooklyn. Kadary Richmond would finish with 27 points and 3 steals in 27 minutes. He shot 10 for 13 from the field, and he shot 6 for 8 from the foul line. In their starting lineup, their guard, Bryce Aiken, finished with 22 points and 7 assists in 32 minutes. He shot 6 for 13 from the field and 8 for 9 from the foul line. With this win, the 24th ranked Seton Hall Pirates are now 11-3. They are now 2-2 in the Big East Conference. With this loss, the unranked UConn Huskies are now 10-4, as they are now 1-2 in the conference for the time being. Now, that is what college basketball is looking like following yesterday's matchups. Looking forward to what's going on today. At 5:30, 13th ranked Ohio State is going to host unranked Northwestern on Big Ten Network. And then at 7:30, the 23rd ranked Wisconsin Badgers are going to Maryland to face off against the unranked Terrapins. That match will be on Big Ten Network following that matchup. So those are the two. So that is what college basketball is looking like as we are going into today's matchups. Taking a look at what's going on at the professional level, starting off with the NFL, looking at the first of last night's 2 matchups, starting off in the Mile High City in Denver. The Broncos would host the reigning AFC champs, Kansas City. The Chiefs would end up beating the Broncos 28-24. The Broncos outscored the Chiefs 14-10 in the first half. The Chiefs would outscore the Broncos 18-10 in the second half. The Chiefs would end up taking the lead off of a 86-yard fumble return by Nick Bolton in order to put them up. And then, of course, Patrick Mahomes' 2-point conversion would put them up by a touchdown. The Broncos would kick a field goal with 4.5 minutes left, but they would not be able to score again, as this is how both of these teams' seasons would come to an end. In their final game of the 2021-22 calendar season, the Denver Broncos were led by their starting quarterback, Drew Lock, out of Missouri. He would throw for 162 yards, and of course, he would run for 35 yards. His 2 touchdowns would come on the ground. He would finish with 195 total yards of offense and 2 touchdowns. Their leading rusher, Melvin Gordon III out of Wisconsin, would finish with 12 carries for 110 yards as he had a touchdown on the ground. He also had 6 yards through the air, so he had 116 total yards of offense. Denver's leading receiver was Tim Patrick. He had 6 receptions for 95 yards. And then on the defensive side of the ball, Michael Ojemudia would finish with the Broncos' lead in tackles in their final game of the season. On the winning end of this matchup, the Kansas City Chiefs were led by their elite starting quarterback, the $500 million man Patrick Mahomes. In his final regular season game, he would throw for 270 yards as he completed 27 of his 44 passes. He threw for 2 touchdowns. He was also the Chiefs' leading rusher as he had 9 carries for 54 yards. He would combine for 324 total yards of offense. Through the air, the Chiefs' leading receiver was Mecole Hardman. He had 8 receptions for 103 yards. Their elite tight end, Travis Kelce, had 4 receptions for 34 yards as he had one of the team's 2 receiving touchdowns. On the defensive side of the ball, their leading tackler was Nick Bolton as he had 6 tackles, a fumble recovery, and that ended up going for a touchdown. Also, L'Jarius Sneed has had 6 tackles for himself. With this win, the Kansas City Chiefs will finish their season with a 12-5 record. As of right now, they are holding on to the number 1 seed, and it is very possible that they could clinch a first-round bye. And, of course, it would be a lot easier if the Titans lost in their game, but the Chiefs have put themselves in prime position to go into the playoffs with good positioning. With this loss, the Denver Broncos will finish their 2021-22 season with a 7-10 record. They have failed to make the playoffs, and as it currently stands right now, they are holding on to the 10th pick in the NFL draft. But of course, other teams still have their last game to play. Taking a look at the other game that took place last night, jumping out to Philadelphia, the Eagles would go on to host their division rivals, the Dallas Cowboys, in a matchup where both teams have already qualified for playoff positioning. The Cowboys would end up beating the Eagles 51-26. They almost doubled the Eagles' score after they outscored the Eagles 30-17 in the first half. They would go on to outscore the Eagles 21-9 in the second half as well. On the losing end, the Eagles were led by their starting quarterback, Gardner Minshew. He threw for 186 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. He also ran for 10 yards, as 196 total yards of offense. Philadelphia's leading rusher was Kenneth Gainwell. He had 12 carries for 78 yards and a touchdown on the ground. He also had 4 receptions for 9 yards through the air. That's 87 total yards of offense to go along with his rushing touchdown. Their leading rusher was Quez Watkins. He had 5 receptions for 84 yards as he had a receiving touchdown. On the defensive side of the ball, Kevon Wallace would lead the team in tackles. He would finish with 8 of them on the day. On the winning end of this matchup, the Dallas Cowboys were led by their starting quarterback, Dak Prescott. He would throw for 295 yards and 5 touchdowns. Their leading rusher was their elite running back out of Ohio State, Ezekiel Elliott. He had 18 carries for 87 yards on the ground. He also had 3 yards through the air, so that's 90 total yards of offense. The Cowboys' leading receiver was Cedric Wilson. He had 5 receptions for 119 yards and 2 touchdowns on the day. Their elite wide receiver, Amari Cooper, finished with 5 receptions for 79 yards for himself. On the defensive side of the ball, Kelvin Joseph led the Cowboys in tackles as he had 9 of them. And then Leighton Vander Esch would finish with 6 tackles, and he had the team's lone interception. With this win, the Dallas Cowboys will finish their 2021 season with a 12-5 record. They have officially clinched the division, and as of right now, they are holding on to the 4th seed in the NFC playoff picture. And with this loss, the Philadelphia Eagles are now 9-8. They've clinched the 7th seed in the NFC for the time being, as they are going into this matchup more than likely looking to face off against the LA Rams. The Cowboys on the other end, it looks as though they're going to be facing off against the Arizona Cardinals as they go into the 2021 playoff picture, just to get a sense of what it is looking like. Now, that is what the NFL is looking like following yesterday's matchups. Taking a look at how today's matchups are going to shape the playoff picture, just how it's going to go. Looking at the 1 o'clock matchups, the Cleveland Browns are going to host the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals are holding on to the 3rd spot in the AFC at the moment as the Browns are out of the playoff picture. The Detroit Lions are going to host the Green Bay Packers. As of right now, the Lions are holding on to the 2nd pick in next year's draft. A win or a loss will, I imagine, would would do a good amount. If Jacksonville wins this game and Detroit loses, Detroit could end up with the number one pick for this year's draft. And then the Green Bay Packers are holding on to the 1 seed in the NFC. A win here would clinch a first-round bye for them. At the same time, the Minnesota Vikings are going to host the Chicago Bears. Neither of these teams are in playoff position right now. The New York Giants are going to host the Washington Football Team, as neither of these teams are in playoff positioning either. The Jacksonville Jaguars are going to host the Indianapolis Colts. The Jaguars are not in playoff positioning. Right now, they are in prime position to land the number one pick in the NFL draft, so a loss would cement that for them. The Indianapolis Colts, however, are in the playoff hunt, whereas a win would clinch a playoff spot for them. Also at the same time, the Baltimore Ravens are going to host the Pittsburgh Steelers. Both of these teams are outside the bubble, as a win for either team would do a lot to help them make it into the playoff picture. At the same time, the Houston Texans are going to host the Tennessee Titans. The Texans are out of the playoff picture, but they are possibly looking to spoil the Tennessee Titans' quest to get good seeding. The Titans right now are holding on to the 2nd seed in the AFC, as they could finish with the same record as the Chiefs with a win here. At 4:25, the Atlanta Falcons are going to host the New Orleans Saints. The Falcons are out of the playoff picture, but the Saints could make the playoffs with a win and a 49ers loss, so I imagine the Falcons can definitely look to spoil the Saints season right here. At the same time, the Buffalo Bills are going to host the New York Jets. The Jets are out of the playoff picture, but the Bills are holding the 4th seed. A win could possibly see them move up in seeding, and if the Patriots win, the Patriots actually could overtake the Bills. So the Bills actually have to win this matchup versus the Jets. At 4:25, the LA Rams are going to host the San Francisco 49ers. The Rams have already clinched a playoff spot. A win would clinch a playoff spot for the 49ers, but I imagine the Rams are definitely trying to make sure that the Niners don't win this game. At the same time, the Miami Dolphins are going to host the New England Patriots. The Dolphins are out of the playoff picture, but the Patriots are already in it. They've already clinched the very first playoff spot. But the Colts and the Chargers could still finish with the same record as them, so the Patriots are still going to bring it their all. There's this matchup. At the same time, the Arizona Cardinals are going to host the Seattle Seahawks. The Cardinals right now are holding on to the 5th seed in the NFC playoff picture, as it looks like they're slated to play against the Dallas Cowboys in the playoffs. And then the Seattle Seahawks have already failed to make the playoffs, but I imagine they're trying to spoil the 49ers season, or they're trying to spoil at least some NFC West teams' season, particularly these Arizona Cardinals. At the same time, at 4:25, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the reigning Super Bowl champs, are going to host the Carolina Panthers. The Buccaneers come into this matchup with a 12-4 record, holding the 3 seed in the NFC, tied with the Rams, so a win would do a lot for them. The Panthers are out of the playoff picture. And then last but not least, the final game of the 2021-22 season will be on NBC tonight, as the Las Vegas Raiders will host the LA Chargers. Both teams hold a 9-7 record, as a win would probably put, as I imagine the winner would be in the playoff picture, just looking at how the AFC picture is set up. So that's a very big win, as the loser will more than likely go home, making the season possibly go all the way to the end for nothing. So that is what the NFL is looking like as the regular season is coming to a close. And once the NFL season is over, I will do the preview as we inch our way into the playoffs week by week. Taking a look now what's going on in the NBA, jumping out to the Crypto.com arena. The LA Clippers hosted the Memphis Grizzlies. The Grizzlies would end up beating the Clippers 123-108. They won this matchup by 15 after they outscored the Clippers by 18 in the second quarter. On the losing end of this matchup, the LA Clippers were led in scoring by their starting small forward, Marcus Morris Sr. He finished with 29 points and 8 rebounds in 29 minutes. He shot 9 for 17 from the field, 4 for 6 from 3, and he shot a perfect 7 for 7 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the Memphis Grizzlies were led in scoring by their starting power forward, Jaren Jackson Jr. out of Michigan State. He finished with 26 points, 8 rebounds, 3 steals, and 5 blocks in 29 minutes. He shot 7 for 17 from the field and a perfect 10 for 10 from the foul line. Their starting shooting guard, Desmond Bane, finished with 23 points, 7 rebounds, and 2 steals in 29 minutes. He shot 9 for 15 from the field and 5 for 8 from 3. With this win, the Memphis Grizzlies are now 12-14. That is the fourth best record in the Western Conference. They've won their last 8 games. That is the best winning streak in the Western Conference, second best in the NBA to the Chicago Bulls. The Grizzlies have won 8 of their last 10 games. They now trail the first seed Phoenix Suns by 4 games in the conference. With this loss, the LA Clippers are now 19-21. That is the 9th best record in the West. They've lost their last 3 games, and they've lost 7 of their last 10. They trail the 8th seed Minnesota Timberwolves by half a game outside of the playoff picture. Taking a look at what went down in Charlotte now, the Hornets hosted the defending NBA champs Milwaukee Bucks. The Hornets would beat the Bucks 114-106. They won this matchup by 8 after outscoring the Bucks by 8 in the second and third quarters each. On the losing end of this matchup, the Bucks were led in scoring by their elite starting power forward, Giannis Antetokounmpo. The Greek Freak would finish with 43 points, 12 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 blocks, in 5 fouls in 37 minutes. He shot 11 for 20 from the field, 3 for 6 from 3, and 18 for 20 from the foul line. Their starting small forward and former All-Star Chris Middleton finished with 27 points, 10 rebounds, 9 assists, and 6 turnovers in 37 minutes. He went on to shoot 9 for 17 from the field, 4 for 6 from 3, and a perfect 5 for 5 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the Charlotte Hornets were led in scoring by their starting shooting guard out of Louisville, Terry Rozier. He finished with 28 points and 2 steals in 34 minutes. He shot 11 for 19 from the field and 6 for 10 from 3. Their starting small forward, Miles Bridges, finished with 21 points and 8 rebounds in 35 minutes. He shot 9 for 16 from the field and 3 for 7 from 3. Their elite starting point guard, LaMelo Ball, finished with 19 points, 9 rebounds, and 8 assists in 26 minutes. He shot 8 for 19 from the field and 1 for 2 from the foul line. With this win, the Charlotte Hornets are now 21-19. That is the 8th best record in the Eastern Conference. They've won their last 2 games, and they've won 5 of their last 10. They sit 7 games behind the Eastern Conference leading Chicago Bulls. With this loss, the Milwaukee Bucks are now 26-16. That is the 4th best record in the East. They've lost 3 of their last 10 games. They sit 3 games behind the first seed Chicago Bulls. Taking a look at what went down in Detroit, the Pistons hosted the Orlando Magic in the matchup between the 2 teams in the NBA who still have a single-digit amount of wins. The Detroit Pistons would go on to beat the Magic 97-92. They won this matchup by 5 after outscoring the Magic by 5 in the fourth quarter, going in with a tie. On the losing end of this matchup, the Orlando Magic were led in scoring by their starting shooting guard, Gary Harris. Harris finished with 28 points and 6 rebounds in 34 minutes. He shot 8 for 17 from the field, 6 for 12 from 3, and a perfect 6 for 6 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the Pistons would be led in scoring by their starting shooting guard, Hamidou Diallo, out of Kansas. Hamidou Diallo would go on to finish with 17 points and 6 rebounds in 29 minutes. He shot 8 for 17 from the field, and with this win, the Detroit Pistons are now 8-30. That is the 2nd worst record in the Eastern Conference and the 2nd worst record in the NBA. They've won 4 of their last 10 games, and they now trail the 8th seed Charlotte Hornets by 12 games in the conference. With this loss, the Orlando Magic are now 7-33. That is the worst record in all of the NBA. They've lost their last 8 games, which is the worst losing streak in the Eastern Conference and the worst losing streak in the NBA. They've lost 8 of their last 10 games. They trail the 8th seed Charlotte Hornets by 14 games, just to get a sense of how far they are outside of the playoff picture. Jumping now to Indianapolis, the Indiana Pacers hosted the Utah Jazz. The Pacers would end up beating the Jazz 125-113. The Pacers won this matchup by 12 after they outscored the Jazz by 8 in the fourth quarter. On the losing end of this matchup, the Jazz were led in scoring by their elite starting shooting guard, Donovan Mitchell. He finished with 36 points, 2 rebounds, and 9 assists in 37 minutes. He shot 13 for 27 from the field, 6 for 12 from 3, and a perfect 4 for 4 from the line. Their starting small forward, Bojan Bogdanovic, finished with 21 points and 6 rebounds in 37 minutes. He shot 7 for 16 from the field. He shot a perfect 4 for 4 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the Indiana Pacers were led in scoring by by their starting power forward, Domantas Sabonis. Sabonis finished with 42 points, 6 rebounds, all of this in 38 minutes as he shot 18 for 22 from the field. He shot 3 for 4 from 3, and he shot 3 for 4 from the foul line. With this win, the Indiana Pacers are now 15-25. That is the third worst record in the Eastern Conference. They've won 3 of their last 10 games as they trail the 8th seed Charlotte Hornets by 6 games in the conference. With this loss, the Utah Jazz are now 28-12. That is the third best record in the Western Conference as they've won their last 2 games. They've lost 3 of their last 10, and they trail the first seed Phoenix Suns by 2.5 games for the conference. Taking a look now at what went down in Boston, the Boston Celtics hosted the New York Knicks as that was the primetime game. The Celtics would end up beating the Knicks 99-75 as the Celtics won this matchup by 24. They went on to outscore the Knicks by 7 in the second quarter, and they went on to outscore the Knicks by 14 in the third and by 8 in the fourth, by 22 in the second half. On the losing end of this matchup, the New York Knicks were led in scoring by their starting shooting guard out of Duke, R.J. Barrett. Barrett finished with 19 points, 6 rebounds, and 2 steals in 43 minutes. He shot 7 for 21 from the field and 4 for 9 from 3. On the winning end of this matchup, the Boston Celtics were led in scoring by their starting shooting guard and former All-Star Jaylen Brown. He finished with 22 points, 11 rebounds, and 11 assists in 35 minutes. He shot 9 for 15 from the field, 2 for 4 from 3, and 2 for 3 from the foul line. Also within their starting lineup, their elite starting small forward, Jason Tatum, finished with 19 points and 3 rebounds in 29 minutes. He shot 6 for 14 from the field, 3 for 8 from 3, and a perfect 4 for 4 from the foul line. With this win, the Boston Celtics are now 19-21. That is the 10th best record in the Eastern Conference. They've won 4 of their last 10. They trail the 8th seed Charlotte Hornets by 2 games outside of the playoff picture. With this loss, the New York Knicks are also 13-21. They are tied with the Celtics for the 10th best record in the East. They've lost 4 of their last 10 games. They now trail the 8th seed Charlotte Hornets by 9 games, they trail the 8th seed Charlotte Hornets by 2 games for the playoff picture as they trail the Chicago Bulls by 9 games for the conference. Last but not least, jumping out to Phoenix, the reigning Western Conference champs Phoenix Suns hosted the Miami Heat. The Heat would beat the Suns 123-100. They won this game by 23 after they outscored Phoenix by 17 in the second quarter. And on the losing end of this matchup, the Phoenix Suns would be led in scoring by their elite starting shooting guard, Devin Booker. Booker finished with 26 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, and 5 turnovers in 33 minutes. He shot 5 for 15 from the field, 3 for 5 from 3, and a perfect 13 for 13 from the foul line. Their starting shooting guard, Mikal Bridges, would finish with 20 points and 6 assists in 30 minutes. He shot 8 for 11 from the field and 4 for 7 from 3. And also within their starting lineup, their elite starting point guard out of Wake Forest, Chris Paul, would finish with 9 points, 2 rebounds, and 7 assists in 32 minutes. CP3 shot 3 for 9 from the field. He made his only 3-pointer on the day, and he shot 2 for 3 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the Miami Heat were led in scoring by their guard off the bench out of Kentucky, Tyler Hero. Hero finished with 33 points, 5 rebounds, and 3 steals in 34 minutes. He shot 12 for 20 from the field, 3 for 4 from 3, and a perfect 6 for 6 from the foul line. Their starting shooting guard, Duncan Robinson, finished with 27 points in 29 minutes. He shot 9 for 17 from the field, 8 for 16 from 3, and he made his only free throw attempt on the night. With this win, the Miami Heat are now 25-15. That is the third best record in the Eastern Conference. They won their last 2 games and they won 7 of their last 10, but they now trail the Chicago Bulls by 3 games in the Eastern Conference. On the losing end of this matchup, the Phoenix Suns they now hold a 30-9 record. They still have the best record in the Western Conference and the NBA as they are still the only team with at least 30 wins this season. They've lost 4 of their last 10 games and they now sit half a game ahead of the second place Golden State Warriors in the conference. Taking a look at that, those are the games from yesterday, and now taking a look at how the NBA is looking today. Starting with the primetime matchups that are the only matchup being on NBA TV. It will feature the Golden State Warriors and the Cleveland Cavaliers, as this time it won't feature LeBron James. The Warriors hold the second best record in the West, and the Cleveland Cavaliers are holding the 6th best record in the East. Looking at the games that aren't on primetime, at noon, the Brooklyn Nets are going to host the San Antonio Spurs in the Barclays Center. At 3:30, the Los Angeles Clippers are going to host the Atlanta Hawks. At 6 o'clock, the Orlando Magic, who hold the worst record in the league, are going to host the Washington Wizards. At the same time, the Toronto Raptors are going to host the New Orleans Pelicans north of the border. At 7 o'clock, the Houston Rockets are going to host the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Oklahoma City Thunder are going to host the Denver Nuggets as well. At 7:30, the Dallas Mavericks are going to host the Chicago Bulls, who currently hold the best record in the East. At 9 o'clock, the Portland Trailblazers are going to host the Sacramento Kings. And then at 9:30, the surging LA Lakers are going to host the Memphis Grizzlies. But that is how the NBA is looking. And taking a look at what's going on in the world of soccer, starting with yesterday's FA Cup matchups. Starting with the lone big matchup from the day, Chelsea hosted Chesterfield and was able to pull off a 5-1 win to advance past this third round stage. Of course, looking at how they scored their goals, they would end up getting their first goal in the 6th minute from their German striker, Timo Werner. Callum Hudson-Odoi would score in the 18th minute to put Chelsea up, or to put them up 2-0. Their third goal will come from their elite Belgian striker, Romelu Lukaku. Their fourth goal in the first half will come from Andreas Christensen to put them up 4-0 at the half. Their fifth goal will come from Hakim Ziyech in the penalty off of a penalty kick to make it 5-0, as Chesterfield's lone goal will come in the 80th minute from Akwazi Asante. With this matchup, of course, Chelsea will advance to the next round. And of course, taking a look outside of that, jumping to La Liga, Barcelona drew with Granada 1-1 as their low goal came from Luke de Jong. Granada would tie it up in the 89th minute. And of course, following this draw, Barcelona now sits 6th in the table as they sit even with Atletico Madrid with one more game played, and they sit 1 point behind fourth place Real Sociedad in Champions League position. Real Madrid hosted Valencia and was able to pull off a 4-1 win. Their first goal will be a penalty kick from their elite French striker, Karim Benzema. They would start their second half with a brace from Vinicius Jr. in the 52nd and 61st minutes. And then after Valencia scored their lone goal from Guedes, Karim Benzema would score his second goal in the 88th minute, making it a double brace for Real Madrid, and they would win by 3 points, and they would get 3 points in the table. They now sit 8 points clear of second place Sevilla, even though Real Madrid has played 2 more points. Sevilla with 2 wins could bring themselves to within 2, but Real Madrid is still in first place. Taking a look at what went down in Germany in the Bundesliga, Borussia Dortmund faced off against Eintracht Frankfurt, and after Frankfurt took a 2-0 lead, Borussia Dortmund would end up scoring all 3 of their goals in the second half to come from behind and win. Their first goal coming in the 71st minute from their Belgian forward, Torgan Hazard. Their second coming from their young, elite English forward, Jude Bellingham. And then their third coming from Daoud in the 89th minute. But of course, those are the big matchups from yesterday, and looking up to today's matchups. Starting first with the English Football Association Cup matchups today. Tottenham Hotspur will host Morecambe at 9. Liverpool's going to host Shrewsbury Town at the same time. Arsenal's going to face off against Nottingham Forest at 12:10, as these teams are all looking to jump into the next round. Looking at La Liga, Atletico Madrid is going to face off against Villarreal. Atletico Madrid is holding the 5th best record in La Liga as Villarreal sits 8th. A win from Atletico Madrid could see them jump back into the top 3 within La Liga, as right now they sit 1 point behind Real Sociedad and Real Betis. Taking a look now at what is going on in Italian Serie A, AC Milan is going to face off against Venezia, with a win here, they could see themselves temporarily jump to the top of Serie A over Inter. Inter is going to face off against Lazio at 2:45, and with a win, they could jump right back up. Napoli, holding the 3rd best record, is going to face off against Sampdoria at 10:30, and Juventus is facing off against AS Roma at 10:30 a.m. Roma sitting in 7th in Serie A and Juventus sitting 5th. A win here could possibly see them jump into the top 4 for the time being. But right now you see Juventus sitting right outside there, so a win here is very important for them. Taking a look now at Ligue 1, PSG is going to face off against Olympique Lyonnais. As with a win here, PSG could see themselves jump up by even more than where they are now, but they are sitting about 10 points clear of second place Nice. So that is how French soccer is shaping up following today's or going into today's matchups. And once all of today's exhibitions and matchups are complete, I'm going to come back tomorrow on Monday, January 10th, for another episode of The Elite. And until then, I want to thank everyone for listening. I hope all is well. I want to thank the ESPN, NCAA, NBA, NFL, and FIFA websites for giving me all the facts and figures that I need, because I wouldn't be able to do it without them. I apologize for all the names that I butchered, because I do plan on eventually getting them right. And thanks once again for listening to this piece, and I'll catch you with another one tomorrow once all of today's matchups are done. Peace out.